Hi, my name's Sean. That's my friend Jesse. Today we are here
Hello.
with PokéMalarkey. Thanks for coming back. Episode 9, The School of Hard Knocks, I
Fun
think.
fact, everyone. Sean keeps me locked in his basement, and I'm only allowed to participate in society when we do these podcasts. So thank you. Thank you for listening, because it lets me out of the hole that Sean keeps me in.
When,
Thank
when
you.
you're a good Jesse, you get to participate in the internets. That's the rule in my house.
He even lets me have a drink. He's such a kind and benevolent overlord.
It subdues his personality so that he's more,
It
he
does!
takes orders better, yeah.
I'm more tolerable.
It's-
Imagine. Thank you all for returning again to
that would,
episode 9 of PokéMalarkey.
That whole
God,
conversation would have gone way better in the last episode, which was like kind of dark at certain
that's
points.
true.
Yeah, but this
Well,
one's great. This one
we can only do what inspiration, what the muses give to us at any given time. We're just doing our best. We are two people who are, well, I am barely technologically illiterate, but we are just two people doing a podcast out of our love for the Pokemon world. That's all this is about.
sometimes
Thank
sometimes
you.
it would be hard pressed to convince people that we love Pokemon because we just crap on it because it's
We
crap. But
do well, to be fair, we just crap on Ash mostly.
and scientists,
So,
STEM in the
and
Pokemon world
scientists.
is
Very
not
weak.
well represented.
Which
at
is
all.
shocking because, as we've said, the physics that must go into the construction of a Pokeball defies all common knowledge, and yet the scientists you meet are just idiots. I mean, just left and right. Idiots are total bitches in the cases of Professor Oak, for instance.
They're the worst. They're literally the worst.
Sean, thank you for coming back.
Thank you for sitting in my basement waiting for a day when I'd come down. You know, the irony is that you're
That's why I said
upstairs
thank you for
and I'm
coming
in a
back.
basement. Yeah, I'm happy to bring you wine. I'm sure that you in your quote unquote basement are far more comfortable than me in my unfinished nerd cave here. But the reason I was going to use this as a segue, to, we crap on it a lot. Today's less crapping on, I think. It's still an episode of a kid's cartoon, but it's a really kind of fulfilling, nice episode of a cartoon.
And I feel like any TV show, this is the case. If you love a TV show, you watch it, and you think, if you come across a really bad one, you're like, oh my God, I should just quit. I should just quit while I'm ahead.
Or you skip it and try not to think about it or whatever.
Yeah, the good thing, though, that primes you to, like, the next episode, if it's even marginally better than that, you're very happy about. And this episode is a hell of a lot better
Leaps
than the
and
one we
bounds,
saw last
better
week.
vibes. Absolutely. Do you
can
want
I
to talk
hop-
about the? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to hop into the summary, but
Yeah. Let's do that, and then we'll do the fun thing next. Do summary.
The School of Hard Knocks. So, the team, the gang, are still on their way to Vermilion City, so Ash can get his next badge. And as they're going along, they encounter a group of very preppy boys who are training, but essentially hazing another schoolboy and trying to teach them to be better about their Pokemon knowledge and what they know about Pokemon. And this whole scheme is the work of a female student named Giselle. Before, I'm not going to dive too far into that yet, but the students at the Pokemon Technical Institute insist that the best way to become a Pokemon trainer is through, reading books, studying, simulating battles, rather than actively engaging in them, going the path that Ash is going along.
It's literally like, hey, we like to sit in our basements and read books and simulate battles. Jesse, we're well on our way to becoming Pokemon masters.
And the Pokemon Technical Institute is apparently a way that if if your parents have enough money and you get into this school, all you have to do is go to the school and then you're automatically entered into the Pokemon League, which seems like a lot of rubbish to me, but apparently That's all it takes.
That
So
is like
Ash
getting
missed.
in on Harvard without any academic scholarships. Like you
Yes,
just walked in
it's
on your
just
own
like
dime.
the SAT admission scandal. It's like if Lori Loughlin from Full House, paid for her daughter to go to the Pokemon Technical Institute instead of going through and collecting the badges. It is the same thing. It's
Exactly the
reprehensible,
same.
just terrible.
Yep.
But Misty, Ash, and Brock, they meet this poor kid, Joe, who's being hazed by his friends, his fellow students, and they go to show Joe and Giselle, respectively, that it's a lot more than just book learning to be a good Pokemon master, a good Pokemon trainer.
Was that
And
your
of
best
course,
AJ accent right there?
it
It's a lot more than a good
was
book
it was
learning.
my it was my nature as someone from Arkansas. I can tell you, it takes a lot more than book learning to be a good Pokemon master.
You got
But
it.
Team Rocket shows up as they do, and fun fact: Team Rocket, Jesse and James both went to the Pokemon Technical Institute, and they hold the record for the worst scores in the entire school. So, of course,
Really
they're
good
chased
insight to
out
Jesse and
just
James.
by.
This is like the first hint of
Yep.
like background. So we know that they're rich and that they tried to go on like
Oh.
they were on the straight and narrow at one point.
Except there's a plot hole here that I want to talk about in just a second. But Jesse and James get chased out. Giselle learns from the gang that it takes more than book learning to be a good Pokemon trainer. And Joe decides to start over. He's going to do what Ash is doing. He's going to head home and go get badges because he thinks that's a better way for him to be a good Pokemon trainer. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, this episode is not a bad tail end to the last episode where there are different ways to raise your Pokemon and there are different ways to get into the Pokemon League.
It just has a less shitty way of doing it. Yeah,
First thoughts, Sean. This episode is a gift comedically. It's so fucking funny.
It is. There's so much funny shit in here that I didn't notice as a child. Number one, first of all, greatest burn in the show, maybe? I like the way I hate the way she treats us, but I like the way she looks, and Ash is like, yeah, unlike other girls who treat you bad and look even worse. And then, so there's that. This is probably one of the greater burns in the show. And then second one is that, like, this is pretty early. It's like 5 minutes into the episode or 3 minutes even. And they're in this, like, scary fog, and they look like a cult. They're all holding candles where they're hazing this kid. And then the fog clears out, and it's, like, in the middle of a schoolyard, and it's like, that concludes today's training on fog battling strategy or something like that.
It's ridiculous.
I almost fell out of my chair. I was laughing so hard.
It looks like the gang came on some weird, like, mixed scene from some witchcraft movie, like The Craft, instead of a Pokemon episode. And I want to start with the fact that out of 3 Pokemon trainers traveling together, right? Misty and Ash are not pulling their weight. Brock pulls out a table, plateware, silverware. He's gonna
literal table,
crepes in the middle of the woods. And Ash and Misty can barely be bothered to get goddamn firewood for the crepes. They're not pulling their weight. I don't know how they survive after Brock leaves because
they probably don't. That's all in their imaginations after Kanto. They die and creepypasta are just imagining the rest. I get so mad at Misty because he mentions the word like Paris or French crepes or something in like a French, and she just like goes insane and means everything from France is so romantic, and you're just like that. You're the worst.
And Ash disturbs her romantic vision, and she beats the crap out of him.
Which is why he gets that burn off later. So good.
So that whole like. When we come across this weird hazing incident, first of all, I would like to say for the podcast, I do not endorse hazing, except Joe had it coming because they showed him a picture of Pidgeotto And this fucking kid says, "Is it a Zubat?" He deserved what he got. I'm
And
sorry.
he
That's
knew about it.
embarrassing.
Don't forget that he knew he was being stupid on purpose. That didn't make the questions harder. What kind of attitude is that,
Oh,
kid?
right. Yeah, you quitter. I forgot about that, Sean. I hate him even more now.
He
What a
right. I don't
loser.
know. Okay, I do hate him through most of the episode, but the difference between like him and some of these other characters that really pissed me off is at the end of the episode he kind of makes his own big brave decision. Like, can you imagine just leaving school and then going home and tell your parents like, I'm not gonna go to school. I'm just gonna go out on the road by myself.
Well, remember, in this world, you can just do that at 10 years old.
So so that was a very brave thing that he did. So this episode is pretty jam packed with like I'm gonna call it like yuck comedy kind of stuff,
Oh,
like
God.
little
It's
goofy.
just so funny. I laughed. Sean and I were talking earlier today. We laughed. Both of us laughed very hard at this episode. I mean, after the last episode, this one really killed me. Every couple of minutes was just like it's yuck humor, and it's so funny. Still, however many years later it is, when Ash, challenges. Okay, Ash comes across these kids hazing this other student, and all of a sudden Misty's there. All of a sudden Brock is there. But when Ash tells Misty, I can fight them, and she's like, "Oh, fine, fight them all yourself. Show them your man, Ash. I'll just drag your carcass off at the end of the battle." Like, thanks, Misty.
And
Thanks
she
for
just
that
all
that
they just
vote
all look
of
like
confidence.
kids too. Like they don't look like, especially if anything, they're just kids with bad haircuts. Is about all it amounts to. There's not one interesting haircut in the bunch. I know it means nothing coming from me and my haircut, but come on, kids, uh, be good preppy or get out. So it's very charming. There's so it is funny, but then there's also like nice moments where learning about, hey, the Pokemon being more experienced and being trained right is going to be a big difference. Like after he fights Joe and beats him when Joe's not expecting it, and then so it's like there's some valuable lessons to be
Oh
learned,
yeah,
I suppose.
Misty, her Stormy, like any of us who played the games would immediately think, "Oh, a Weeping Bell should beat the shit out of a Starmie. I mean, it should have no problem." But they're right. If a Pokemon has more experience, it can beat Pokemon that have type advantages.
I've got it. These kids all get to go to the Pokemon League. Pokemon League endorses this. There's some kind of underhanded, like, hey, we're going to give you X number of dollars if you let all these kids in. And guess what? They won't be any problem for anyone because their lazy ass Pokemon have just been in Pokeballs for 100 years. So they're going to be harmless. You get money. We get money by saying we're going to get you into the Pokemon League. We attract students.
Blatant corruption
But
coming to you live here, folks.
blatant corruption or just capitalism, really.
Yeah. What's the difference? I love Brock so much, and okay, first of all, every single part of me wishes that Brock was a gay man because he is just so thirsty all the time, and it just kills me. When they talk about Giselle, the gang leader of this group, and Ash says something along the lines of, "It's a violation of student rights," and he shows them what a picture of Giselle looks like, and Brock, the very first thing he says is, "She can violate my rights anytime." Like, God, Brock. And no wonder, this is one of the moments where I love these episodes where both Brock and Ash are just like laid low by a beautiful woman, and Misty
Who's
takes
probably
it
a child, for the
personally.
record. This person is probably like 13, or
Yeah.
who knows?
And
Bulbapedia probably
Misty
knows.
just rages. Misty gets so mad, and as she marches into that school, I was dying. I was like, "You tell him, Misty. You go for it, girl."
She's pretty aggressive in this episode, top to bottom.
She is so aggressive, and I can't blame her. She's always dealing with these two boys. One of them is insanely girl crazy,
And the
and
other's
the
a
other one
moron.
technically owes her a bicycle. So it's just, maybe she does want to go home, but she can't because she needs her bicycle.
It's her, but she already was home, Jesse. She should have just stayed there.
I know. She loves them, but she won't admit it because
That would be
stubborn.
too easy. That would be too easy.
She's so stubborn. She's the most stubborn of the three, which is hard to believe because Ash is one of them. But
Well, I would say
Misty,
that she probably grows the least as a character over time. Like the Misty that you meet, the only difference between the Misty that you meet and the Misty at the end is that she was friends with them as opposed to baggage. That she doesn't grow much.
I think you might be right.
Brock,
But
I
I also I feel like we should say, though, in her defense, she doesn't get a lot of opportunity to grow either.
That's
so I
fair.
guess that's another thing. We can't say, we can't just, as much as I'd like to, because she does annoy me sometimes. She's not given the opportunities that Ash is, for instance, given to grow. But like in this moment and it's great because even Giselle knows, like, because she witnesses Joe lose to Misty, and Giselle's like, "You dum dum, that's the leader of the Cerulean City Gym. What did you expect?" However, I refuse to believe that Graveler could fucking shoot Starmie through a window. I
Unless
refuse.
that Graveler was training with AJ and Sandshrew in the previous episode, and that was all a big setup.
That would be the only way, though. My God.
Yeah, it kind of pissed me off. And then
is-
Starmie just gets its little jewel broken all the time. I don't know what's happened there, but I imagine it hurts.
It does. I have to admit, my heartstrings were tugged because the rest of the episode, Misty's like, "Oh," and I was like, "Oh God, are you gonna be okay, Starmie? Please be okay." Because Starmie is a beautiful Pokemon. I mean, and also you gotta love this sound. Kya, kya.
It's a throwing star in an almost racially insensitive way. It is.
Yeah, it is. It's just. I mean, yeah. It sounds just like in Naruto when they throw one of their shuriken. Yeah, that's exactly what it sounds like. Oh my God! Look at that crossover.
Either you or my brother Jordan, one of the two of you sent that thing about the sounds that Pokemon make when you throw them out. It's like most of them, it's like a harmless sound or Aurora when it's the name, and then Weepin' Bell.
And then Victory Bell.
Victory Bell just screams. And then the first comment down is like, WTF, you guys know Electabuzz? Because Electabuzz is just a motorboat. And as much as that appeals to me, it's very awkward in a kid's show to hear. It's horrifying.
Oh my gosh, Sean.
I appreciate it as an adult. As a child, you're just like, that's a funny fucking sound right there.
God, but you're right. Oh God. Oh my God.
Electabuzz is just a motorboat. That's all it is. But he could have just said,
"Oh my
Buzz."
God.
Nobody would have said anything if you threw him out and he's like, Buzz. Like, that would have been fine in the Pokemon world. But like, no, we have to make him sexually suggestive because that's funnier.
No, that's part of the thing, though. When you're designing these shows for kids, I mean, every single designer, artist, writer does it. They sneak in the innuendos for the older audience because it keeps them engaged too. If you gotta, and I guess Sean, at our age, we're extra grateful because we're going through these, and every episode I feel like, oh God, don't say that again, please.
Sometimes you mentioned that Pegasus from Yu-Gi-Oh! Is probably partially responsible for who you are today. Maybe Electabuzz is responsible for who I am today. I don't know. Maybe the first time I heard Electabuzz,
you heard it here. I'm gay because of Maximilian Pegasus, and Sean is a raging heterosexual because of Electabuzz. Thanks, anime. You've done it again.
The first time I heard Electabuzz, I thought it was a joke. Like, I thought the Electabuzz was especially angry or something, but no, that's just how he is.
Sean, I've lost your voice.
Nothing? You got nothing from me? Hello?
I don't hear you at all.
You can't hear me at all? Oh, it's registering over here. Maybe it's on
Oh,
your side. Give your
it
microphone
is
a
on
little
my
twist.
side. It's on my side. I fucked up. Ignore that.
Can you hear me now?
Anyway, guys, I can hear you now.
Excellent. Well, we don't have to talk about motorboating or
That's
movies or anything
fantastic.
anymore. I'm glad I got to mention it once on this podcast.
I'm glad you did too. I would like to point out one of the better battles in this episode is the Giselle versus Ash, Cubone up against Pikachu.
More comedy gold. How did we forget this?
First of all, another time where the anime uses a TM that is virtually useless in the game. Leer. Cubone uses Leer, and Pikachu is like just knocked, like just can't do anything for a second. And if you've played the games, you know that Leer is one of the first ones you forget because
immediately.
Why?
But Ash's and Pikachu's response.
Silly face.
He's like, yeah, stare at the silly face, and just walks up to him like this. And then Cubone what's her name? Giselle, like, calls for the move, like, Bone Club or whatever. And she's very serious when she says it. So, like, Cubone, use Bone Club. And he just, like, takes his bone and just, like, dunk.
It's great.
And again, for the second time in the episode, I almost peed my pants laughing because I kind of had forgotten what happened from childhood.
It's so good.
And it's beautiful.
And don't forget the bone meringue, which is, I'm pretty sure is not a real move in the game. I think there is some kind of like boomerang move, but I'm 99% certain it's not called bone meringue.
I
can tell you. Let me check my trusty Pokedex. 1 second.
Ooh, fancy.
You love this cover? My phone looks like a Pokédex, podcast listeners. Just a second.
Audio only listeners. I should be describing this. Jesse is typing into his phone, which appears to be a Pokédex. While you're doing that, I'm going to remind everybody that the other piece of comedy here is that there's this ancient old man that's still in school because he's afraid to go home without his diploma, and he's still in the beginner's level. So he's been there for like, I don't know, 50 years or whatever. And they use that as like to point. It's like, no, everybody's too ashamed to go home without a badge. Look at that guy. He's like still in my class.
Oh shit, Sean, I'm wrong. Cubone learns Bone Meringue at level 21, and it's a ground attack. I thought that was a made-up attack in the show, but apparently it's real.
Just use Leer, and then it freezes Pikachu, and then Pikachu's response is a stupid face.
I would real quick like to plug for all of our 5 Pokemon podcast fans. If you really want a really good Pokédex simulator on the App Store, at least for iOS, it's called Dexter, and it's a fantastic. It is if you can see this on the YouTube, it has all of them all the way up through the current generations, and it tells their types. It breaks them down by what moves they learn at what levels. It tells you when they evolve. It's been really fantastic to me in this podcast and making sure I double check things, even though I did not check the bone meringue thing. But Dexter, it's a great resource for any of you who are just, an extra special level of loser like we are. But it's fun. I enjoy it.
Jesse, we're not losers. We have a podcast that obviously
we are aficionados. We're
internet entities. That's what I'm
celebrities, basically.
In our own heads. That's a way better plug than my usual Zoom plug, though. So I think that's probably roughly enough of the episode, but before we jump to the next thing, I am very excited about the next thing. Before we go to the next thing, you mentioned a plot hole, a story inconsistency with Jesse and James, who are kind of present, but not super present in this episode.
Yes.
Oh no, now I lost you. Did you wiggle the thing again?
bitch. Here I
There we
am.
go.
Son of a
Got
bitch.
it.
Here I am. The plot hole later on in episodes, Jessie is supposed to be like dirt poor growing up. She grows up where like her parents convince her that snow is like a dessert, and like Jessie grows up dirt poor. So the only way she could have gotten to the Pokemon Technical Institute would have been through some kind of scholarship. So she fucks that up. Just saying, that's the only way that plot hole can be fixed for me. James, on the other hand, we will learn later, was raised filthy fucking rich.
And won't
But
take his goddamn Growlithe with him on the road. What the hell is wrong with you, James?
oh boy, I can't wait to get to that episode because that is a stickler.
It's a weird one. It's I won't say good or bad because I don't remember, but I
It's
know
a
it's weird
weird
as
one.
hell. I will
It's a
say
weird
that it's really close to the Ditto episode, and I love the Ditto episode so much because it has one of my favorite lines in all of Pokemon, all series, all of it. And when that guy's like, "It still has that stupid face," and every time I hear that line, I just,
God.
I'm about to cry just thinking about it.
The very end of this episode, last bit of comedic humor before we shift away. One of my favorite thing about this whole episode, apart from Brock's letting her violate his rights, is Joe and Giselle patch up at the end. They shake hands. They say they're friends, and then Ash goes, "Why can't we be like that, Misty?" And Misty goes, "Why? I'll tell you why. Because he doesn't owe her a bike." And that's the end of the episode. And I love that because it's true.
Don't forget the awkwardness of Joe's like, can I keep your picture in my wallet? Like, right before that.
Yeah. Yeah, that is very like, okay, Joe. These kids, sometimes I wonder
social pariahs.
well, I wonder sometimes about the like value of choosing kids who are in puberty to like be the protagonist of anything. And I know that anime loves doing that.
That is
but
literally what anime is. You've just described it. This is
that's right.
puberty.
And like no wonder they're all like horned up to like all get out.
Well, in this show, they didn't go to school, so they're not even like socially acclimated to life. Like at least in other anime, the anime is always built on school because that's how anime works. But in this one, they don't even have like social skills.
That's true. There's no element of slice of life.
None of it.
It's all out in the wilderness. I don't know, Brock fapping in his sleeping bag. Poor Ash and Misty just like begging to be let go from this suffering. But I'm gonna get off on a tangent about puberty and these terrible kids. Sean and I did
about puberty.
We will get there eventually because there are lots of episodes where these kids need help. So both in last week's episode and this one, we found out there are different paths to the Pokemon League. Because there is no School of Hard Knocks equivalent in the games, which is, where Sean and I know probably the most about. We thought this would be a good point to talk very briefly about the Elite Four, because Ash never has to fight the Elite Four. I mean, he learns a bit from Bruno in the mountains later on, but he never has to fight any member of the Elite Four because he goes to the Pokemon League and fights other trainers. So, Sean, the Elite Four, Lorelei, Ice type, Bruno, Fighting type, Agatha, Ghost type, Lance, Dragon. What are, in just the less than, 10 minutes we have left, what do you think about them? What's been your experience fighting them? Do you have any tips for someone who's never gone up against them before?
I don't, frankly. So I'm going to share a very boring story, and it's very telling of how I play games. My path to fighting the Elite Four, I like grinding. I like JRPGs. Usually when I get to the Elite Four, I got a handful of level 99 Pokemon, and I'm not scared to unleash those bitches.
Whoa!
So
Not
in
me.
in my whole life, I've probably beaten these games 3 total times. So probably 2 on the originals, like one when I did it the very first time way back in, and 1 full playthrough, and then more recently, Let's Go Eevee.
Uh-huh.
And I don't mind grinding. It doesn't bother me. It's something I do in the car. So I don't have a good strategy, and I am sorry for that because it's very uninteresting. I usually waltz in with these guys that because I've done everything else. I've collected every possible thing as much as I could possibly do before I can get to the Elite Four, and then I just fucking trash them. My favorite one though is Lance. I'm a huge fan of Dragon type Pokemon, and I cannot even see Dragonite without laughing. If you want to talk about a stupid Pokemon face, he looks. Dragonite is not the most motivated looking Pokemon, so I love
No.
Lance. I probably always get stuck the most on Lorelei, for whatever reason.
Really?
I'm not.
Wow. Agatha always gets me. The second Gengar always kicks my ass.
I usually have Gengar is usually one of those ones that I happen to be carrying around in my own pocket. Some Ghost and usually an Alakazam and a Gengar in there somewhere. Um, it doesn't seem like I ever struggle with Agatha, but again, it's tough because I don't necessarily struggle with it. But I've never approached them how like a normal human with real
Oh.
like limits on their time would approach them. So I'm very sorry. I don't
Well,
have a great story, but I love
well,
Lance.
guys, Sean was not helpful. So let me tell you,
I'm really sorry, but it's telling. That's how I play a lot of other games too.
I'm
So.
unlike Sean, who is a grinder, and suffice to say, that works really well because, okay, I'll never ever forget how long it took me to beat them the first time I played, Red and Blue. I remember very, very vividly on a family trip to Florida when I was, 8 or 9. We were even crossing over a bridge. I remember it when I finally beat the Elite Four and the champion on the other side. And I'll never forget it. I'll never forget the joy of finally fucking beating them because I came in there with what must have been 50 fucking revives, 75 super potions or hyper potions. I was ready. And I'm pretty sure, I can't remember what my original lineup is, but if I had to guess, based off of who I have pretty consistently been, I had a Cloyster, I had a Blastoise, I probably had a Victory Bell. Let's see. I probably had a Raichu. I pretty often had a Raichu. The other two must not be important because I can't remember them off the top of my head. But those four would typically pretty much get me through the Elite Four. But as I said, going up against Lorelei was really challenging for me as an Ice type trainer, which is why I had to bring Victory Bell, because at least the grass type could, do pretty good damage to her ice water type Pokemon. And then Bruno was no challenge at all with Cloyster, Hydro Pump, or Blastoise, Hydro Pump. Blast through Bruno. It was always Agatha for me. Always Agatha because, she has Haunter, Gengar, Golbat. Yeah, Golbat.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I questioning this?
Because
Golbat,
he doesn't fit.
Arbok.
It's such a weird addition.
Yeah, and then another Gengar. And I'll never forget the first time I went up against the Elite Four and I got through Lorelei, Bruno, and I got to Agatha, and Gengar gave me so much trouble. And when I beat the first one, I was like, yeah, I beat him. And then the last Pokemon she throws out is another Gengar. And then I was done. I must have lost to the Elite Four, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 times before I finally managed to get through all of them. It was a struggle for me. I'm not a grinder. I think my Pokemon were at level between level 50 and 60, like the Elite Four. So it was it was challenging.
And that's the right way you're doing it the right way. I'm not going to vouch for my way.
I don't think it's the right way because it kicked my ass.
Can you help me remember something though? In the original games, when you trade Pokemon in the original versions, they also still got the experience boosts in the original games, right? Because in my head, I'm thinking about the Pokemon I had.
I
And
don't remember.
I'm thinking it's like, well, I know I had Alakazam and Gengar because those were always two of my favorites. Pretty sure I had Golem, and pretty
I
sure I
never
had
had those because I could
Machamp.
get no one to trade with me. So
What eventually my brother got a separate Game Boy and a separate
so
cartridge.
jealous.
But his was it was like Crystal and Red, but we were still able to trade back and forth, I believe.
Mhm.
And so when I'm thinking maybe not the first time I beat it, but the second time, I just picture having all those ones that feels like you had to trade, but then they level up so much. I mean, 50% faster essentially, and they get so OP so quick. Alakazam, especially in the OG games, psychic types were weak to what, fighting types, and that's it. Am I thinking about that right? Psychic types weak to fighting types.
Oh,
and
psychic
maybe
types.
Ghost.
Psychic
Ghost?
types should kick the ass of fighting types.
Ghost, is it Ghost types I'm thinking of?
They're weak to Ghost. They're
just
weak to Ghost.
one weakness, and it's Ghost. So, and so if you picture me burning through the original game with an Alakazam getting that 50% EXP boost, I hope I'm not fucking that up. I hope that's the truth. It seems like it in my head.
It sounds right.
But
The hardest thing about the Elite Four for me will always and forever be the fact that you could not go back and heal your Pokemon.
Mhm.
You were, and we all remember how those original games were, where you had such a small money, like you had such a small wallet compared to what you can have today in Sword and Shield, and you were just like fucked if you could not afford a million revives because, oh god, it was tough.
It was it was a boss gauntlet, it was just
Because I would get down to where I would have one Pokemon left and I'd revive another one, throw them in there, revive another one, and maybe hopefully they would make a bad choice, the algorithm, that would let me hyper potion them after that fact, and then I could maybe stick it out until I beat them and get to the next person. But
you'd luck out on one swing.
Yeah. So we're coming to the end of our time here tonight, and I would like to say for everyone, we're really excited about next week's episode. I have my friend Sam Owen, who is a dedicated listener of the podcast. She is a children's librarian at the Brooklyn Public Library, and she's going to be on to talk with us about the next two episodes, and also talk a bit about how it's fun for her to see kids that she gets to work with as a librarian who are much younger than me, Sean, or Sam, who are just getting into Pokemon, other anime for the first time, and they're loving it just as much. And that's super exciting to me that that's still going, and it's exciting. And I hope you guys will tune in next week to hear her talk about that. And we're so glad that you tune in to listen to us have a blast, because Sean and I love this. It's so much fun.
We are extremely flattered that anyone in the universe would listen to anything that we say, much less in 40-minute chunks. And it's so exciting to have guests back, and then also bringing some diversity in that's not just Sean's friends that happen to be awake, because that is not it's a beautiful group of people. It's my favorite group of people personally, but it's not broadened the old horizons very much. But I will say we're so excited to have Sam, and we hope that these guests enjoy coming on as much as we enjoy having them, because it would be great, to run that cycle back through at some point, because it's a lot of fun to have people.
Yeah. Real quick before I let Sean sign us out, if you like listening to the podcast, you haven't been on before, let us know on any of the social media. Always PokéMalarkey is our handle. Message us, let us know. We'd love to have you on.
YouTube podcast aggregator of choice. Twitch, when we record on Twitch, obviously it's usually 2 at a time every other week. Let us know there. We read it all. We're very grateful. Thanks, Jesse, for running all the social medias. Much appreciated. And Jesse's he's much better at responding to questions and things than I am, so it's probably good that he runs that part. This has been PokéMalarkey, episode 9, The School of Hard Knocks. I'm Sean. That's Jesse. Again, super duper grateful. We hope you have a great week. come watch us again come check out
Next
next week's
week.
episode, and we'll be live again on Twitch in 2 weeks. Take care,
Bye.
guys.